Snap snap, the sinister secret exposed. Discover the terrifying curse haunting 12 innocent lives. Jess could feel it in her bones, the air thick with an unshakable tension. Each night, as darkness enveloped Maple Creek, the once friendly whispers of childhood dreams twisted into haunting echoes. The snap snap sound, stark against the silence, sent chills racing down her spine. Her children, Sam and Lily, snuggled in their beds, unaware of the shadows creeping just beyond the flickering streetlights. Every morning, another house stood vacant, another family vanished into thin air, like leaves caught in a relentless gust of wind. The town buzzed with stories. Did you hear about the Miller family? Gone. A shudder ran through Jess as she pictured the anguish in their neighbors' eyes. The municipal charm of Maple Creek was crumbling, replaced by an oppressive atmosphere thick with fear. And right at the center was Mr. Pritchard, the beloved school principal, his warm smile juxtaposed against the horror unraveling around them. Jess noticed things: a flicker of unease in his laughter, a lingering glance towards the woods at the edge of town that seemed to hold secrets darker than any urban legend. During her late-night shifts at the hospital, surrounded by the sterile smell of antiseptic, she'd catch glimpses of him on her drive home, standing beneath the streetlights, that snap-snap sound echoing from the darkness behind him. Tonight was different. The whispers of a curse, tied to the 12 innocent lives taken, crawled into her mind like unwelcome intruders. As she eavesdropped on a couple of anxious neighbors at the mailbox, snippets of the curse floated through the air, each mention sending icy tendrils down her spine. Something about sacrifices, something they want. One woman's voice trembled, breaking under the weight of fear. The weight of that fear pressed deep in Jess's chest as she imagined the lives of her own children on that chilling list. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the night deepened, Jess's resolve hardened. She wouldn't sit idly by while the darkness whispered threats. Tonight, she would confront Mr. Pritchard. Heart racing, she approached the school, her grip tightening around the handle of her pepper spray, her courage fueled by maternal instinct. The air felt electrified, coiling around her like a predator ready to pounce. She reached the entrance, the shadows cast by the flickering bulbs creating long tendrils that reached towards her, as if warning her against entering. Just as she drew a breath to call out, a chilling snap-snap broke the silence behind her. The hairs on her neck prickled with fear as she spun around, breath caught in her throat. Nothing but darkness met her gaze. Where had that sound originated? Suddenly, she was acutely aware of her vulnerability, the realization that she might be just another piece in Mr. Pritchard's ominous game. As dread seeped into her bones, Jess knew she may have driven a nail in a coffin that was already closed. The ground beneath her shifted, and though the shadows swirled ominously around her, they whispered that time was running out. She had to uncover the dark truth before it consumed her family. Before she could scream for help, the snap-snap returned, louder now, echoing into the night, as if calling for her, inviting her into the dark. What happened next? Jess didn't know if escape was even possible. The snap-snap reverberated in Jess's ears, a haunting melody that danced on the edge of reason. Cold sweat trickled down her spine as the shadows quivered, an orchestra conducting her fear. She bolted her gaze back towards the school door, the very heart of Maple Creek's nightmare, and stepped forward, the taste of rust in her mouth. Mr. Pritchard. Her voice wavered, barely a whisper, swallowed by the swallowing dark. No answer. The stillness was suffocating. Only the gnawing sound snap-snap spoke back, wrapping around her, tightening. If he was in there, she needed to find him, needed to know. As she pushed the door open, a rush of stale air hit her, scenting the space with memories of long-forgotten joy. A dusty classroom, echoing with laughter, now twisted into echoes of despair. The light from the hallway barely illuminated the chaos within, revealing papers strewn across the floor like fallen leaves in a storm. With each hesitant step, her heart pounded like a war drum, drowning out the quiet cries of the past. "Where are you, Mr. Pritchard?" She called again, her voice braver now but still threading through the ominous gloom. As she moved deeper into the building, the snap-snap sound grew closer, more deliberate, like a mocking countdown. Suddenly, a scraping noise tore through the silence. Jess froze, her breath hitching in her throat. The sound seemed to come from the storage room at the back, a place where darkness pooled thick and the light dared not enter. She weighed her options: run or seek the truth. No way around it. It was time to confront whatever evil lurked behind that door. Gripping her pepper spray with trembling hands, she padded toward the storage room. The snap-snap intensified, almost impatient. It felt alive, a beast eager for acknowledgement. A flicker of doubt grazed her mind, but the thought of her children made her stand firm. With one swift motion, she flung the door open that a flood of musty air blasted her in the face. It ruffled her hair, teased her senses, lazy and creeping. She squinted into the dim light, scanning the rows of stacked supplies and abandoned furniture. And then she saw him. Mr. Pritchard stood in the far corner, twitching as if caught in a trance. His eyes, once warm and inviting, were now vacant pools glistening with something that made her skin crawl. "Jess," he slurred, as states of confusion poured from his lips. "What happened?" she shouted, her voice fracturing against the walls. He turned slowly, his grin a grotesque mask, distorting until it no longer resembled anything human. "They want 12, he muttered, jaw clenching and unclenching with every syllable. 12 for the curse it's begun. Terror surged through her veins, thrice as potent. What curse? Suddenly his gaze shifted past her, fixating on something unseen in the shadows. The snap-snap erupted again, a sharp, gruesome sound. She turned, a scream clawing up from her gut. Nothing but darkness, thick and suffocating, loomed behind her, yet the sound pressed closer, chaos in its wake. Jess stumbled back, her instincts screaming for her to run. But as she ran, her eyes flickered back to Mr. Pritchard. The horror of 1,000 voices filled the room, piercing through the air, closing in echoing centuries of grief and rage, begging to be released. She fled the school, but not before catching one last glimpse over her shoulder. His face transformed, the sinister laugh that boomed echoed in her mind long after she'd gone. The curse wasn't just about the 12 innocent lives anymore. It was coming for her, pulling tighter every moment. As the snap-snap filled the night, Jess's heart raced. Who would be sacrificed next? She had to act. For her children. For herself. But just then, the town square clock struck midnight, a sound more sinister than any snap-snap. Too late, a chilling whisper curled around her like smoke, and as she dashed into the darkness, she realized that time, just like the shadows, was no longer on her side. What would it take to break this curse before it closed around her forever? The streets of Maple Creek were deathly quiet, the midnight air a shroud that wrapped around Jess like a suffocating blanket. Each hurried step echoed in the silence, sharp against the pavement as dread clawed at her insides. The snap-snap noise lingered in her ears, a menacing reminder that she didn't just flee a school, she fled a nightmare. Her mind raced where to go. The police station was too far, and the thought of being caught in the curse before dawn felt dreadfully close. The community center. It was somewhat of a hub where people gathered. Maybe she could find someone there, someone who could help her make sense of Mr. Pritchard's haunting words. As she approached the flickering street lamp that lit the entrance to the center, the light buzzed like 1,000 angry wasps. Its flickers seemed almost deliberate, taunting her. She glanced around, feeling as if the night itself was watching, waiting. Jess, a familiar, soft voice broke the still air her breath caught. It was Kelly, her best friend since childhood, but even she wore a worried expression. "What are you doing out here?" "It's not safe, I'm looking for help." "Kelly, something terrible is happening. Mr. Pritchard he's different. We need to find out what the curse is." Jess's panic spilled out like blood on a white shirt. But Kelly's eyes darkened. "It's not just you, Jess, something's happening to a lot of people, it's like they're changing." She hesitated, looking over her shoulder. "Even my brother, he's been acting weird since the Harvest Festival." The Harvest Festival. A night of celebration that had spiraled into this chaos. "What do you mean changing?" Jess pressed, her heart racing again. "People saying strange things, seeing things," Kelly whispered, her voice barely above a breath. "Even the old stories about the 12 stop." Jess interrupted, fear slicing through her. "You think this has anything to do with the stories?" "Sometimes, old stories are based in reality, Jess. It's always the ones who don't believe who suffer the most." A shiver coursed through her. Were they being watched? Was the snap closer now, or was it just her mind spiraling? "If we're going to figure this out, we have to go to the library," Kelly said, determination creeping into her voice. "There's a book, an old book, that talks about the curse. If we can find it, we can end this." "Okay, let's," but she couldn't finish. Jess felt it, a ripple of something behind her. A disturbance in the air, thick like fog. She turned her head, and there it was again, the snap, clearer now, sharper. "Closer. Run!" She screamed, adrenaline bursting through her veins, and they sprinted toward the library, hearts pounding synchronously, the echo of feet chasing them like the terrible shape from their nightmares. "Jess, hurry!" Kelly urged, glancing over her shoulder. The terror was palpable. With every stride, Jess could feel the night closing in, heavy with the promise of doom. She reached the library door, fumbling for the handle, the snap, a cruel mockery in the distance. They burst inside, gasping for breath. The library felt like a sanctuary, yet shadows danced in the corners, alive and hungry. Jess's heart sank as she scanned the rows upon rows of spines, so many titles alive with secrets but none that promised safety. As they moved deeper into the stacks, Jess felt something brush her shoulder, cold and unfamiliar. Whirling around, she found nothing but the whispers of the past. Kelly stood frozen, staring at an ancient tome that shimmered under the dim light. "Look," she breathed, pointing. But as Jess stepped closer, the snap returned, louder, almost an echo of laughter. "It's too late," it seemed to taunt, the darkness vibrating, creeping closer. Jess gripped the side of the book, its cover cracked and worn. What secrets did it hold? Would it hold the answer, or simply a path to their doom? Just the sound of shifting shadows filled the air, and the library door slammed shut, suddenly locked. "Help!" Jess screamed, dread pooling in her stomach. And then the shadows began to move. The shadows undulated like dark water, creeping along the library's walls. Jess could feel the weight of fear pushing down on her, making every breath shallow and frantic. She glanced at Kelly, whose eyes were wide, reflecting both terror and determination. "Get the book!" Jess yelled, her voice cracking. The snap was louder now, rhythmic and sinister, pulsating with the heartbeat of the darkness surrounding them. Kelly reached for the tome, her fingers trembling. She pulled it free, dust exploded around them, swirling in the dim light like wraiths. As she opened it, the air chilled, a gust so biting it felt like hands reaching through time, grasping at their souls. "It's all here," Kelly whispered, reading as the text shimmered in the gloom. "The stories, the 12, they were sacrificed. For what?" Jess pressed, stepping closer to Kelly, her voice a desperate whisper. An odd heaviness filled the room, curling at the edges of their minds like a vine. "Look," Kelly continued, her finger tracing the brittle parchment. "There's a curse rooted in fear. They become something else. The Harvest Festival, this is what unleashed it." Unleashed what? The sense of dread piled. What exactly had been awakened? Suddenly, shadows seemed to shift with intent. They swirled around the library, erasing lines of sight and twisting certainty into confusion. Jess's heart raced, each thud drowning out any rational thought. Jess Kelly's voice trembled, her eyes darting to the fading light in the library. If we don't stop it, if we don't end this now, the snap snap echoed, bouncing off the shelves, and Jess felt a bitter chill crawl down her spine. What do we do? She said, panic building. There's a way to reverse the curse, Kelly shouted over the sinister sounds. We have to summon the 12. We have to, but a deafening crash hit the door, splintering its frame. The darkness poured in like a living thing, thick, oily, and Jess felt its touch clammy on her skin. Run! She screamed again, the book slipping from Kelly's hands, pages spiraling around them like fallen leaves. They spun in all directions, searching for escape, but the library had turned into a labyrinth of shadows. No! Kelly's voice rose painfully as she was pulled back by something unseen. The panic in Jess surged and erupted. She reached for her friend, but the shadows tugged Kelly further away, wrapping around her like a shroud. Jess! Help me! Jess lunged forward, grasping at Kelly's outstretched hand. But it was like trying to hold on to smoke. Suddenly, the snap-snap intensified, a cacophony of malicious laughter that echoed through the gloom, then, a voice deep, reverberating, ancient dripped from the shadows, "You cannot fight what has awakened." Jess's heart raced. They were trapped. All those stories, the 12, the festival, it was real. It was terrifying. Stop! Jess yelled, finding her voice through fear. We know what you are. We're not afraid. The shadows froze for just a heartbeat, then writhed violently, undulating like a serpent struck by fear. Jess's breath faltered. This wasn't the time for bravado. Jess! The key! In the book. It's the only way to stop it. Kelly gasped, her voice almost swallowed by the shifting darkness. Jess spun toward the fallen tome, gripping its edges as a wave of dark energy crashed against her. Was this truly the key? The answers lay within, but at what cost? Trust me. Kelly's cry punctured through the noise. With courage forged in panic, Jess opened the book wide, heart pounding. The shadows shrieked, moving with wild rage, but Jess poured every ounce of hope and fear into the pages. I will end this. As she began to chant the words from the tome, the snap-snap escalated, a chorus of madness as if the darkness itself screamed in defiance. Could she summon the strength to make it through? Would they be able to face whatever nightmare awaited them? The library shook, and with one last desperate incantation, the storm seemed to still, but the shadows began to shift again, forming a figure that loomed out dark, menacing. Your fate is sealed. And then, amid the chaos, the lights went out completely. The darkness consumed every corner of the library, thick and suffocating. Jess felt an icy dread seize her heart as she stood frozen, the book still clutched tightly in her hands. Kelly's panicked gasp echoed faintly, swallowed by the void around them. Kelly! Jess shouted, but her voice was absorbed into the blackness. The shadows coiled tighter, merging into an ominous form that towered over her, its presence radiating a sense of malevolence. Your fate is sealed, the voice rumbled, deep and haunting, resonating through the very bones of the library. With a sudden flash, the shadows flickered like a dying flame, revealing glimpses of twisted, tormented faces writhing within. They screamed in silent agony, mouths open wide but with no sound escaping. Their eyes reflected nothing but terror, and Jess's stomach churned. Desperation surged through her veins as she fought against the stifling grip of fear. What are you? She cried, searching for clarity amid the confusion. I am the guardian, it hissed, the edges of its shadowy form flickering ominously. The keeper of the cursed. You should never have dared to expose the truth. Jess stumbled back, the weight of the book pressing heavily against her chest. The 12, the sacrifice, she stammered, piecing together the fragments of horror that seemed to swirl around her like a tempest. The festival was just the beginning, the guardian taunted. Their fear has sustained me for centuries. Do you think you can simply undo the past? Their stories are intertwined with this place with you. Each word dripped with malice. Each syllable tightened the grip of panic around Jess's throat. She spun to look toward the disintegrating form of her friend, but the shadows obscured everything. Kelly was lost, trapped in the uncertain folds of forgotten madness. No. Jess screamed. She couldn't lose Kelly. Not now. Not like this. She turned back to the book, flicking through the pages frantically, searching for anything that could help. I will save her. Foolish girl, the guardian hissed, domains of darkness swirling. You do not control what you invoke. The curse will consume you without mercy. A sudden gust blew through the library, pages fluttering wildly. Among the chaos, Jess's eye caught a phrase: fear becomes power. Feeling the chill of understanding wash over her, Jess gripped the book tighter. She remembered the faces, the voices, the tormented souls. What if I turn your power against you? She shouted, her voice filling with newfound strength. The shadows recoiled for a moment, flickering uncertainly. You dare? Your might is rooted in fear. But I know real courage. Jess declared, feeling the pulse of hope ignite within her as she prepared to channel every inch of fear into strength. You feed off of sacrifice. I want to let you win. With every ounce of willpower, she began to recite the words embedded in the book's spine, the ancient incantation she felt resonate deep within her. As she spoke, the shadows erupted into chaos, writhing in resistance. The walls trembled, books cascading from shelves as the library came alive. The figure of the guardian flared, shadows twisting and snapping, struggling to hold its form. Stop. You cannot. It howled, but Jess kept reciting, a mantra of defiance pouring from her lips. As the final word escaped, a blinding flash illuminated the darkness, and for a split second, Jess saw them, the 12. They were silhouetted against the light, their expressions shifting from anguish to clarity. They were trapped, yet a flicker of hope ignited within their eyes. Then, the light vanished, plunging Jess back into darkness, her voice swallowed by the void. She waited, heart pounding, breath caught, uncertain of what fate awaited her now. But then, a cracking sound echoed from the depths, reverberating through the library like the snap of a fragile thread. Jess, a weak voice called, piercing through the gloom. Help me, could it be? She could hardly believe it. Was it Kelly? But before she could respond, the shadows roared. The guardian's rage echoed like thunder, you will regret. This suddenly, from the expanse of black, two glowing eyes locked onto Jess, burning with a feral intent. Prepare for the darkness within, and just like that, Jess realized the fight was only just beginning. The air crackled with tension, cold and sharp like a blade. Jess stood there, the weight of uncertainty heavy on her shoulders. The glow from the eyes cut through the dark, but nothing felt reassuring about their light. They were hungry. Jess, the feeble voice echoed again, trembling with fear and desperation. Please, it was so close now, but where was Kelly? The thought sent spikes of dread through her chest. With a fierce resolve, Jess took a step forward. I'm coming. She shouted, her voice shaking as much as her hands. But the shadows danced, warping the very fabric of reality, creating obstacles that twisted and turned like sinister apparitions. The guardian's laughter rippled through the darkness, chilling her to the bone. You think you can simply call upon the light in this abyss? You misunderstand the nature of fear, child. It will consume you whole. Ignoring the taunt, she pushed deeper into the suffocating darkness, her breath quickening, her heart racing. She needed to reach that voice. Stay with me, Kelly. Jess cried, the name piercing the suffocating silence. She turned to the book, its pages fluttering with an unseen breeze, as if it too sensed the growing chaos. What do I do? Do you think the dead wish to be awakened? The guardian sneered, shadows swirling tighter around Jess. They rest in silence for a reason. You wish to summon them, but it is your own doom you call forth. The sound of cracking echoed again, but this time it seemed to come from behind her. Jess whirled around. The dense shadows began to shudder like they were alive, pulsating with a sinister rhythm. Kelly. Jess shouted again, fear ripping through her. But the shadows were undulating, drawing closer, clawing at her resolve. Feel the weight of despair, Jess, the guardian maintained, its voice a dark whisper curling around her ears. You will never find her. You will join them. The book opened on its own, pages flipping rapidly until they settled on a single passage glimmering like a beacon amidst the encroaching dark. Only through sacrifice can the truth be unveiled, it read. Jess's breath hitched. Sacrifice? What did that mean? Would it mean losing herself? But, in that moment, the flicker of hope ignited again. The 12 souls needed liberation. Perhaps, if she dared to confront the Guardian's wrath directly, she could break the curse. Enough! Jess screamed, and the sound shot through the darkness, forcing the shadows back like a wave momentarily receding. She steadied herself, gripping the book as tightly as she could. If it takes sacrifice to free Kelly, then so be it. As she chanted the words again, the shadows recoiled, hissing in rage. The oppressive weight of the library shifted, a roiling storm of dark fury gathering around her, pushing against her fragile courage. Foolish girl, the Guardian thundered, resonating like an earthquake in the shifting darkness. Do you truly believe you can survive your own intent? The price of releasing the cursed is your own essence. Jess's eyes narrowed. She couldn't think about consequences now, the stakes were too high. Let them go. Let Kelly go. She cried, each shout igniting the darkness into a frenzy, but then, the voices of the 12 rose a haunting harmonious echo of despair that filled the air, wrapping around her heart. They cried not in anguish, but in chaotic harmony, urging her onward. We are here, we are free in your resolve. The Guardian jerked back, shadows flickering like a candle's flame. You would invite your own demise? It hissed, panic shadowing its voice. You have no idea what you are meddling with. Darkness surged yet again, claws grasping at Jess's legs, pulling her toward the abyss. It was relentless. Yet Jess stood firm, every ounce of terror within her shifted into an unwavering resolve. Face the truth. Jess yelled, a wave of fierce energy surging through her as she bent over the book. I will do what must be done. But in that moment of desperate determination, the shadows surged, enveloping her as she felt the heat of igniting fear threatening to swallow her whole. In the chaos, a single thought flashed through her mind, a ghost of a memory, and in it, a revelation. What was she truly willing to sacrifice? Just as the darkness closed around her and the weight of inevitability pressed down hard, something within the shadows shifted, revealing a horrific truth. Jess, your sacrifice, the glowing eyes whispered. It's not what you think. And with that, the darkness roared louder, threatening to tear her apart at the seams. Jess felt the darkness pull at her, tightening around her like a vice. It pressed against her lungs, squeezing out every thought but one, Kelly. The name echoed in her mind, a desperate mantra that kept her fighting. Suddenly, the shadows pulsed more violently, splitting and swirling like a storm. The Guardian's laughter cut through the chaos, grating against her senses. You still think you can save her? Oh, how naive. It sneered. Sacrifice is sweet, isn't it? But you don't even know what you're offering. The shadows shifted again, morphing into grotesque forms, faces twisted in eternal agony, eyes wide with horror. Jess recoiled. Was this what awaited her if she surrendered? Was this the fate of the 12 souls she aimed to save? Stop! She cried out, her voice almost lost in the whirlpool of despair. You think you can scare me with this? I won't give in. In that moment, a flicker of understanding pierced through the fog of terror. The Guardian was fueled by fear. It thrived on the dread that came with the unknown. She needed to seize that fear, turn it against her foe. Your power stems from their pain, Jess shouted, drawing herself up despite the darkness swirling around her. But I won't let it control me. With renewed determination, she focused on the book, the words blurring before her eyes. Only through sacrifice, it had said. She needed to grasp the true meaning. What if the sacrifice wasn't just her? Could it be something else, something significant, yet separate from herself? Suddenly, the book glowed fiercely, illuminating the darkness with ethereal light. The shadows recoiled, hissing in fury. The voices of the 12 surged forward, echoes of hope and torment intertwining, vibrating through her marrow. It was like a tidal wave of energy, washing over her with potent clarity. Liberate us! They cried in unison. Choose wisely, for not all sacrifices are born from blood. The guardian screeched, the sound rattling the very bones of the library. What nonsense! You would abandon your essence to save them? You will find only despair in such folly. Ignoring the malicious words, Jess closed her eyes and channeled everything she had into one thought, a plea for Kelly, a yearning for freedom that went beyond this physical realm. I choose to face this. I will not allow you to take me. The air around her shifted, thickening with anticipation. She felt the warmth of the glowing book on her chest and the cold of the shadows creeping closer, desperate to reclaim their space. Then, silence. The chaos stilled for a brief heartbeat. All she could hear was her pounding heart, echoing in her ears. The shadows hung back, almost questioning. Tell me what you need. She shouted into the void. What does my sacrifice mean? But the tranquility shattered as the shadows lunged once more, and the guardian's shadowy figure loomed larger, eyes glowing with menacing intent. You will pay, Jess. But I'll make it fun. Are you ready to lose everything? It spoke like a growl, a promise of pain and anguish, and Jess felt the weight of dread crash over her once again. She gripped the book tighter, bracing herself for whatever darkness approached. Tell me what to do. She screamed again, desperation mingling with defiance. Suddenly, a dark whisper slithered through the void, stirring something deep within her. Find your heart, child, find what truly matters. In the end, you decide. She gasped as fragments of forgotten memories flickered through her mind, the warmth of laughter, the gentle touch of Kelly's hand, the moments of joy they had shared. She had almost forgotten how they anchored her spirit, and then everything erupted into a storm of whispers. The 12 souls cried out, drowning in anguish but also awakening something long dormant within her. The realization struck like lightning, she could finally take control. The darkness surged, but Jess steadied her breath. I will find my heart. She proclaimed against the surge, pushing back as the shadows clawed at her. She felt a tether binding her to Kelly, tightening with each moment, but as the shadows swirled more fiercely, the guardian's laughter echoed again, engulfing her, a seductive promise lacing each note. Then demolish your own heart if you truly wish to save them and yourself. Jess hesitated, feeling the weight of that challenge press down on her. Would she dare destroy what made her human to save them all? A decision loomed over her like an executioner's blade. What would be left of her? And above that dark choice, the whispers began again, tentative, yet unyieldingly strong. Jess, you are strong, but whose truth would she ultimately embrace? The shadows writhed, greedy tendrils snaking closer as if drawn to her uncertainty. Jess felt the pulse of darkness surround her, an oppressive weight. Her heart raced, but she couldn't back down. Not now. Not when the echoes of the 12 souls danced at the edge of her consciousness, demanding release. Demolish my heart. She whispered, mind racing. Was that truly the sacrifice demanded? Jess clenched her fists around the book, feeling the texture of its ancient cover against her palm, grounding herself in that connection. Show me. She yelled into the growing gloom. I need to know what it means. The air shifted, an oppressive silence fell like a mask. The shadows stopped their restless movement, drawn toward her plea. For a moment, Jess felt the weight of dread recede, leaving a strange calm in its wake. But it was false, she could sense it. Are you certain? The guardian crooned, its voice smooth like silk but dripping with malice. Imagine the bliss of your friends freed, their chains undone. It will be so lovely for you all if you don't mind losing the essence of who you are. Images flashed, shattered hearts, bleeding spirits, lost laughter. Despite the terror, Jess felt a flicker of resolve ignite within her. She thought of Kelly's smile, a beacon through the dark, and the love that tied their spirits together. She wouldn't sacrifice herself so flippantly, that wasn't the kind of hero she could be. No. Jess shouted defiantly, voice slicing through the shadows. Would I give one change who I am? The Guardian's laughter snapped back, cruel and sharp. You think your defiance gives you power? It only leads to your ruin. But Jess could feel it, a crackle of energy pulsing with each beat of her heart. The warmth from the book surged, and the flames of clarity danced along the edges of her consciousness. What is the heart? She cried, raw desperation spilling from her lips. What am I if not for who I love? With that, the shadows began to tremble as though her words had struck them. The Guardian recoiled, its voice rising to a thunderous growl. Then you are a fool. Your heart is weakness. Give in to despair. The air shifted again, thickening with an unearthly chill. Shadows whipped and curled around her, taking on the forms of those lost souls, their faces pleading, twisted in despair. She could feel their anguish seep into her skin, biting her like icy teeth, urging her to set them free. Find your heart, the whisper returned, urgent and insistent. Understand its truth. A realization crashed through her. Perhaps the sacrifice wasn't only about erasing part of herself, it was about what she could offer that still let her remain whole. Jess focused deep within, narrowing in on the truth that glowed brighter than the shadows, the love she held for Kelly, for those lost. Wasn't that the essence of her heart? Then let me give what matters. She roared, pulling energy from the depths of her fears. Not my life, but their chains. I will break these shadows. With each pulse of her heart, the book blazed, radiating light against the encroaching darkness. The shadows screamed, recoiling as if burned, but Jess pushed forward, channeling every ounce of her willpower. She envisioned the chains that bound the 12 souls and unraveled them in her mind, igniting a storm of shimmering light, but then, in the midst of that radiant glow, Jess felt a shift, something darker, clawing at the edges of her mind. This is just the beginning, the Guardian hissed, its voice a strangled breath. You think you've chosen wisely? You haven't seen your true darkness. Her heart sank as another wave of doubt began to rise. In that moment of clarity, shadows coalesced into something sharp, something that threatened to fracture her renewed strength. Jess was unsure if she could hold on. Was she truly strong enough to save them? As the light flickered, doubt enveloped her once again, an insidious whisper of failure looming on the horizon like a cloud of dread. Your hearts are already broken. Just accept it. And in that very instant, the book's light began to flicker. What was she missing? What would she be forced to confront? Time was running out. The flicker dimmed, and despair clawed at Jess's throat. The glow from the book felt feeble, as if the shadows were siphoning its energy, chipping away at her resolve. She could almost taste the fear lacing the air, thick and suffocating. Desperation surged through her veins. She had to push back. Not like this. She shouted, rallying every ounce of defiance she could muster. I refuse to yield. But as she spoke, doubt crept like poison into her mind, whispering about the impossibility before her. A whirlwind of memories engulfed her, each face of the souls trapped in torment. Kelly, with hopeful eyes. Mark, with a laugh that used to echo through their shared laughter. Each manifestation twisted into a grotesque version of itself, drowning in sorrow. The resemblance to the Guardian sharpened in her mind. Were they one and the same? A monster feasting on fear and despair, linking their fates forever? Stop! Jess cried, voice cracking under the weight of the shadow's pressure. I am not afraid of you. But the shadows danced, mocking her. You think those hearts matter? They forgot you long ago. She staggered as another wave of cold rushed through her, as icy fingers gripped her insides. Memories flared brighter, each betrayal, each moment of despair. Were the souls lost because of her? Was her love a curse clinging to them, binding them in darkness? No. Her voice thundered, reverberating against the oppressive gloom. It doesn't end like this. Clenching her fists tighter around the book, she drew from the depths of her anguish, letting the pain fuel her. As she summoned her power, a strange sound rattled through the air. A crack of fracture within the encroaching darkness. Jess focused on that sound, pushing it deeper, envisioning it as her lifeline. You don't control me. The shadows hesitated, a flicker of uncertainty crossing their jagged edges. Jess felt the book pulsate against her chest, the warmth radiating like a heartbeat synchronized with her own. Your power is nothing without my guidance. The guardian hissed, claws extending, sharp and terrifying. You think you can fight me? I am more than fear. Jess yelled back, voice ringing with fierce determination. And I will not be broken. Her heart avowed loyalty to love, and with that newfound strength, Jess conjured vibrant threads of light from within, weaving them through the flickering shadows. Chains clanked as they trembled against the bright glow, the souls caught in the turmoil began to vibrate with energy, their confusion present yet hopeful, and just like that, the tide shifted. Light erupted, engulfing the shadows, and Jess could hear the whispers of the lost fear transforming into freedom. The delicious crack of each unbound spirit sent shivers through her, strength surging as she tore through the darkness surrounding her. The guardian screeched, furious and wounded, the deceptive silk of its voice now laced with desperation. Foolish girl. You think you can bend my will? You don't know the truth. But Jess pressed on, faced with the frayed edges of her own reality. An image stung through her mind, the faces of her friends, their expressions not of disappointment but pleading hope. That truth ignited her ferocity and undeniable strength and vulnerability, yet as light surged, in a split second, she identified it, a whisper, dark and tantalizing. But you are the darkness too. Jess froze, her heart pounding against her ribs. The light flickered again, syncopated with doubt. No, this can't be. A cold sweat broke out on her brow, she felt the shadows creeping back, stronger this time. What will you choose, Jess? The guardian hissed, its malicious grin twisted. Your friends. Or the power that will make you invincible? In that moment, a shiver peeled through her. What lay deeper than her heart? Was she risking the very essence that fueled her strength, as the darkness clawed back, sending waves of shadows lurching toward her? One question ignited her mind, what part of her was lost to this curse? The pulsing light flickered weakly on the edge of collapse, leaving her breathless. Could she withstand the shoreline of her own darkness? Time slipped through her fingers as uncertainty carved its way back into her heart. Jess gripped the book tighter, the weight of its pages grounding her in the surging storm of light and shadow. No! She screamed, forcing her voice to cut through the oppressive darkness. I know what I am. I won't be consumed by fear. With each desperate word, she summoned memories, fragments of joy, laughter, and love. Kelly's smile, the warmth of her children, the moments that defined her. They flooded her heart, igniting a shimmering light within. I choose love. I choose hope. Suddenly, the shadows quivered, recoiling from the warmth of her resolve. The guardian's booming laughter turned to a voice of panic. You cannot fight what you are. It howled, twisting as darkness lashed out, trying to snuff out her light. Watch me. Jess roared back, drawing courage from the bond shared with the 12 souls. She channeled their energy, harnessing every ounce of truth, each heartbeat representing unity over despair. The book pulsed in her hands, its glow deepening, radiating outwards like an exploding sun. Enough! Jess declared, taking a step forward. With unwavering strength, she threw her head back and shouted the ancient incantation with a voice sharpened by conviction. You will not take my heart, nor my friends. I will not be bound to your darkness. The light burst forth like a dam breaking, flooding the room with piercing brilliance. Shadows dissolved in its purity, twisting and writhing as if in agony. The anguished faces of the 12 emerged, graced by Jess's light, their own pain interwoven with courage. Together, they filled the air with a chant, their voices rising like a tide. As the light surged, the guardian shrieked, shadows unraveling like thread pulled from fabric. No. You cannot. But Jess pressed on, her voice steady. I know what sacrifice means. It doesn't mean losing who I am, it's about embracing who we can become together. The light swelled, illuminating every corner of the library. Memories and laughter intertwined, wrapping around the lost souls, offering them the freedom they had craved. Jess could see the agonizing chains fall away, each one clattering to the floor like metal freed from bondage. The Guardian's form flickered under the weight of the light, crumbling to dust amidst the echoes of freedom. You are a fool, Jess. It bellowed around her, fading as the final shreds of its power dissolved into glimmering motes, swept away by hope, but as the last vestiges of darkness vanished, Jess felt her strength waning. The light had taken its toll, and she wavered as fatigue washed over her. Kelly! She cried, calling into the brilliant blaze. Where are you? Then she saw her. Kelly emerged from the haze, trembling but whole. Jess! She whispered, tears streaming down her face. You did it. You saved us. With relief flooding her heart, Jess staggered forward and found Kelly's hands, intertwining their fingers. They stood together, the bond renewed, the weight of despair that had threatened them now lifted. As they gazed around the library, the shadows had vanished, leaving only the shining truth of their friendship, their love powerful lights pulled from the depths of despair. But the book lay tremulously between them, its pages fluttering gently remnants of their dark encounter. Is it over? Jess asked, breathless, hope and uncertainty mingling in her voice. Kelly squeezed her hand firmly. I think we still have to face what's next, but we can do it together. Together they stood before the remnants of the curse and the truths they had uncovered, and Jess felt the warmth and love of their combined strength surround them. They would rebuild, spread their newfound hope through Maple Creek, dispelling the shadows that had once clung to the town. In that moment, as dawn broke, the first rays of sunlight pierced the windows, illuminating the labyrinth of wisdom held in those aged books. Jess knew they would forge a brighter path. Yes, darkness could return, but so long as they stood united, they would never yield. With one final look at the echoes of what had been, she turned to Kelly, their spirits entwined, and they stepped out of the library into a new day. As they walked, Jess felt that nothing would ever be the same. And perhaps that was the point. It was not just an ending, it was a beginning of stories, of hope, and of lives reclaimed. Never would they allow the shadows to win again. Now, my friends, if you enjoyed this incredible journey, you need to subscribe immediately to catch the next exclusive story. This is the moment to show your support. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section below with your reactions and theories about this epic conclusion. What did you think? And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to experience this thrilling ride. Together, we'll keep the power of our stories alive.